Growing up, the only park ranger I ever saw was on the Lassie TV series. I just thought, what a great job that would be. I would love doing that. I was a backcountry ranger, but something was missing in the purpose. You'd see backpackers and you might help them a little bit, but what good was I doing for the earth? It's not just a place, it's a community. What would happen if the community fell apart? If the people are going to use those areas in a manner that preserves them for the next generation, they've got to understand the meaning. Hey folks, we're ready to go. The gumboot chitin, which I hope we'll see, it is the largest chitin in the world. As you look into the tide pools, you'll see it's a magical world all unto itself. It's a small little puddle filled with seawater after the ocean has retreated, and it's a beautiful aquarium. You're either a grazer, so you're at the bottom of the food chain. You're finding anemones all over the place. Or like the sea stars, you might be at the very top. The sea stars are the wolves of the tide pools. I mean, they are ferocious carnivores. They control populations of everything else. A spray of water! We're on the migration path for gray whales as they migrate from Mexico to the Bering Sea. A lot of those whales. On the way to the Bering Sea, say, you know what, there's some pretty good eating here at Yaquina Head, and they'll come back here year after year. A long time ago, 16 million years ago, Eastern Oregon was on top of that same hot spot, that big pile of magma, and it blew. And some of that magma traveled out here to the coast. The job of a park ranger currently is much the job of ancient storytellers. There was a time when we were all part of a culture that it was very important for someone, the elders, to pass these stories on to the next generation.
So it can make a massive ecological difference.
The sea otter is gone. These purple ones and the red urchins offshore, population just went crazy. The urchins then devoured up the kelp forests, which were home to many species of fish. You need to know that story because the community you see down there when you go to those tide pools is not the healthiest community. It's missing the sea otter. There's a part of us all, I think, that needs to be back in nature, to go to the mountains or the coast or whatever it is that revitalizes you, recreates you, recreation. I lived in Indiana on the Great Lakes. I've lived in the South. I've lived in the Northeast. I've lived all over. But if I had to pick my soul place, this would be it.
I've always been interested in animals all my life. If you learn that you're having a negative impact on someone else or our environment, I think most people want to change that, but it's hard to change our old habits.
The chicks came out, and so
I was an immigrant coming to the US, so I always wanted also to do some Latino outreach. So when I found a job here at the Yaquina Head, which involved educating children about shorebirds, I felt like this is where I belong.
Oh, and there's a turkey vulture on the top.
There's something really unique about Yaquina Head in which you can see that predator-prey interaction that you don't really get to see in other places. Like you see the bald eagles that are preying on the common mares.
Oh, that might be a mare, and then you want to go in and look.
It's dramatic and it's thrilling and it's sad. Watching birds is really the first step to caring about them. The common mares really stood out to me. They mate for life. Parents take turns incubating the egg, and once the chick is born, they take a leap of faith, literally, and jump off the rock and hope that they hit the water. The dad goes out to show them how to fend for themselves. Seabirds are thought of as indicator species, so that means that they can tell us about the health of our oceans. Underwater, seabirds are the top predator. If they aren't doing very well one year, it can be because the species that they prey on may not be doing very well also. I could spend all my life learning about birds and still not know everything about them. I want to protect the environments that they live in, because by conserving birds, you are protecting a lot of other species in that ecosystem.
When I left high school, I did have a list. I wanted to be in the media, I wanted to sail across the ocean, and I wanted to be a park ranger. Took the radio job first, ended up doing it for 40 years. I get an email one day from my wife that says, "Let's sail to New Zealand." Just kind of out of the blue. It took me like 2-3 nanoseconds to go, "Roger that, hon, you bet, let's do it." 40 miles north of San Francisco, and this storm comes out of nowhere. Heavy, heavy winds. The seas are like pyramids. GPS is jumping all over, radar's jumping all over. And, well, I'm just gonna have to eyeball it. So darkness falls, and now I'm just guessing at this point. And I saw a light way off in the distance. And at first I just thought it was maybe a fishing boat or something. But as it got closer, I realized I did it. I navigated us across the Pacific Ocean, and the lighthouse is the capper. I thought a lighthouse just saved our lives, more than likely. When we came here, we kind of sniffed around, well, we're not going to be cruising in the sailboat forever, so when we're done, this might be a good place to move. Whenever I go anywhere, I read everything I can. Voracious reader about the area. So I read everything about the biology of the area, the culture, the history. I read every book I could find. Captain Cook was here in 1778, and he found there's otters and was able to sell them to China. Pretty soon there were a lot of ships out here that were in the otter trade. So by the gold rush in 1849, lots of people are coming out here. And the Oregon Trail's humming, hundreds and hundreds of wagons all the time. We had a problem, however, and that was for commerce really to develop, shipping had to run all the time. Before we had the lighthouses, all the coastal shipping stopped every night, all night. Now we got 24-hour shipping. Railroads are coming in by the 1850s and 60s, and we've got an infrastructure. Lens was built back in Paris in 1868. So it was manned from 1873 through 1966, which means living on the property, watching it at night. 3 light keepers, at least 2 families, and sometimes 3. They actually did that until they had automation equipment good enough they could walk away. So when the Coast Guard took over in 1939, one of the first things they did was change it to a flashing pattern. 2 seconds on, 2 seconds off, 2 seconds on, 14 seconds off. When a mariner sees that light, they know it's Yaquina Head. And I got this park ranger thing in the back of my head because I always wanted to do that. The site manager who was here at the time called me in one day and he said, there's a paid seasonal ranger job coming up. And I said, well, who in the heck would hire a 67-year-old man? I said, sure, I'd love to. Well, you must be the new recruits for Lightkeeper here at Yaquina Head, is that right? And there went the bucket list. You know, I have a little saying around here, if the light goes out, lives go out. This is your lighthouse, and we're going to take care of it till you come back. How's that? Thanks for coming, you guys. You were just great. Thank you very much.